Welcome into the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsey Smith, here with Saul, Bookman, Espo, and Gerald Bourguet. Guys, throughout the offseason, I think I'm going to come in with a question of the day just to kind of get things started. Okay. Typically, it'll be something random and fun, and sometimes it'll be really lame. Like today, what's your favorite color?
Individually, it's blue, but as a color combo, black and yellow.
Okay.
He's a Steelers fan. What do you want? Sorry to out you.
Expectations
Gerald.
were low.
Purple.
Purple. I feel like I knew.
I am shocked by that answer.
Are you shocked? I know it's tough to believe.
Mine's always been navy blue.
Okay.
Navy blue's always it's the GOAT.
All right. Mine's green, like this kind of a darker shade of green.
Forest green.
Yeah, all the different darker greens.
Like highlighter green?
No, not particularly. And then black is a close second.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm surprised black wasn't first on the list because this is the first time I've seen you wear a non-black shirt on the program, I believe.
Well, there's a first for everything. What can I say? All right, gentlemen.
Well, before we get into that, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Because I actually had said, like, well, usually Lindsey opens up the show by saying, how you guys feeling today? Mm-hmm. And then today was the first day you didn't do that. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not going to do that. So I just wanted to address something real quick off the top, just because of what happened yesterday. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world that are not great. And, you know, a tragedy happened yesterday and something that could have absolutely been avoided. And we're not going to get into a discourse about, you know, this side or that side or what the moving forward should be. But we just wanted to let you guys know that we decided not to go live yesterday because we were very empathetic to what was going on. And it hits all of us in different ways. And I think it's not a great place that we're all in right now as a country. And, you know, I have 4 kids and, you know, 3 of them are in high school. And I can't even imagine thinking, especially at a younger age, you know, in elementary school, dropping them off and never seeing them again. You know, and Espo's got a 5-year-old. And it's a sensitive topic when you're talking about just where do we go from here? And everybody will say the right things and everybody will say we need action right now. And I hope it's true. I hope people actually take action. But honestly, like, it's a little deflating where we're all at right now in terms of what is going to happen. Is anything going to actually happen? Is any measure going to be taken outside of just absolutely putting up gates and fences and walls around these schools to keep our kids safe? And I'm just really sad about the country right now.
I think the biggest thing to remember in all of this is that it's okay to take some time. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to have the emotions, all the things. Just make sure that you're also taking care of yourself throughout all of this as well. Sometimes I feel like we get too much, too often, and it's too heavy for most people to be able to actually shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, I have a wife who was a 2nd grade teacher. I have a 5-year-old daughter who's in elementary school. So, it hit me hard yesterday. And look, for me, it's as simple as this. If we never change anything, nothing ever changes. And that's where I'll leave it. So,
yeah, I think we all know what needs to be done. And there's no point banging my head against a wall saying the same thing we've been saying for months, years now. It's just sad that it keeps happening. And hopefully this is the start of some change, but it does feel deflating. And I think that's why it was better that we took some time yesterday to properly process all of that before going live or anything like that.
And the only thing I would ask everybody out there, the people I talk to every day, is please, please, please do not get numb to this. This should not be something that just, okay, well, this is the next thing that happened that's bad. Like, if you have an opportunity to make a change, if you have an opportunity to do your part into trying to enforce that change, please, please remember an instance like this and do so.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that you guys know that we all care about each and every one of you and that we understand if there's any sort of feelings going on, that same, like, we can relate. Yep. But we won't spend too much time on that because I know, as important as it is, I know that this is also a space where we can find some happiness and joy in life as well.
So let's bag on the bench.
Let's talk about Suns basketball. Oh, I never mind.
We're gonna start off with some flowers. We'll keep things a little light off the top. We got some flowers to give out to Devin Booker and Chris Paul.
Okay,
D-Book was named to the All-NBA first team. Chris Paul was named to the All-NBA third team. So, round of applause, gentlemen. Congratulations.
I think we have a applause thing, don't we?
Oh, well,
We're
sorry,
not breaking it out.
I just did it manually.
That's cool.
I mean, it's cool because we talked about Book being a top 5 MVP candidate. He was. That meant that logically he would probably be a first team All-NBA guy, but you need to see it to actually believe it's happening. And it was cool to see him on that list. Now he's eligible for that Supermax that we talked about, 4 years and I think $211 million. And then Chris Paul, I know a lot of people are down on him right now, but he really did have a tremendous season. Third team All-NBA at the age of 36 is not something to just turn your nose up at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his 11th All-NBA selection, which I think puts him on a list of like 15 other guys that have ever gotten that many in NBA history. So pretty cool for him as well.
Did you see Nikias's thread today?
Which one?
Talking about CP3 getting an All-NBA mention. Third team. There were some that even had him as first team, some votes that had him as first team and second team. I tend to agree with him. I think third team's not outlandish. I think that's fair. But first or second team, I thought that was like, whoa, what? No.
I think you could have made a case for maybe second team before he got hurt, but missing that time I think was probably I had him third team on my list, and I think that was appropriate.
Look, let me take your flowers and walk them over to the closest dumpster.
Oh my God!
I don't give a crap what they're winning right now.
Man, Espo's still
so angry.
I'm in the anger phase again, stage again. Guys.
All these flavors and spices, and you choose salt.
What's that? What did you say?
All these flavors and spices, and he chooses salt.
Yeah, he does.
That's clever. I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
Yes, I am today. Sorry. Look, I'm happy for Devin. It means he's going to get his money, and it's well deserved. And
Right.
Great, Chris got recognized for his work, but there's a lot of work left to do. I'll say that for it. But I'm glad that they got recognized for a great regular season. But I really wish they were getting recognized for a great postseason right around.
Everybody gets a ribbon. Let's go.
Icon with the $5 super chat. Thank you. Says paying $5 for you to Google handsome Squidward and tell me it isn't Ish Wainwright. Here, yeah, I was like, I just Googled it. What do you guys think?
This is true.
Yes.
It does look like Ish Wainwright.
It does.
Wow, oh my God. How
version.
did you even like?
It looks like as if Ish Wainwright went on the movie Mars Attacks.
Oh I need to know where the connection with your brain was. Like, was that a meme on social? Are you still watching SpongeBob? Like, where did that connect? Like, what was the light bulb moment for you, Icon?
Can have that. I love that. I love that kind of brain.
It's so funny.
Josh is another one of those guys that has that brain.
Yep.
We say one thing and we're a meme on Twitter in 5 minutes.
Hey.0, we will not have any KD slander on this show. KD is coming to Phoenix.
You're right, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, let's get into it because Matt Toolman in the chat said, why are there rumors floating around about KD coming here? I assume with a sign and trade with Ayton. Well, there's drama happening in Brooklyn right now. We have reports from multiple different people that Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets front office are having a struggle kind of reaching an agreement, and that if they don't, things could get really ugly. And as Anthony Puccio tweeted, it appears Brooklyn is reluctant on giving Kyrie a long-term deal, which, if that does happen, could open the door for Kevin Durant to be like, I'm out. Yes. I don't want to be here anymore. And maybe he really likes Scottsdale, you guys.
The other part of that tweet says, that they haven't spoken to Kevin Durant since the season ended.
That's very true.
Is it that weird?
No, that's not.
It doesn't strike me as weird. Like, if I'm going, if I get a chance to go on vacation, the last thing I want is a call from Saul going, "Hey, Espo."
First of all,
muting the group chat.
First of all, if for Espo to actually say that in my direction is so blasphemous.
Espo's the one texting us on vacation.
I know.
Look, if I would have texted you,
you
do you know how many times I have to yell at Espo and say, "Hey, fucker, take the day off. Stop texting everybody. And then he won't text me. He texts Jacob and he texts Shane, and they come and tell me, hey, Espo's texting me again. And I'm like,
that's different though. If I choose to text you, that's on me.
No.
If you call me, I'm going to answer.
A vacation for you is a vacation for us. Okay?
Oh, I see how it is. There's some words I want to call you, but I'll refrain. Thank you very much.
Oh, man.
Save us, Gerald.
So anyway, Kevin Durant. Look, I think the Nets are in a really tough place because you look at what Kyrie was able to give them this season, less than half of a season. You look at, him not wanting to get vaccinated, and I don't care where you stand on the issue. These are the facts. Him not wanting to get vaccinated alienated James Harden. James Harden wanted out. Now they're down to 2 superstars with a bunch of role players. Joe Harris is hurt. Kyrie and Kevin Durant get swept in the first round. They're the only team in the playoffs that's gotten swept, by the way, and a lot of people thought they should be contending for a title this year. And now they're out of the playoffs. Now Kyrie's long-term status there is in question. And if he walks, they don't have the means to go out and get another superstar. So if they don't figure out what they're going to do with Kyrie Irving, and if it's not a long-term extension, which they're uncomfortable with given his unreliability, yes, Kevin Durant is not going to be happy about that. I'm not saying that he's going to certainly come to Phoenix, but the Suns, as we talked about yesterday, they have a lot of flexibility with their contract structures, with owning all of their picks from 2023 and beyond. They could throw their hat in the ring. I'm not saying it's going to be a DA sign and trade, and straight up that doesn't work anyway. There'd have to be a lot of other pieces involved, but it's something to keep on the radar moving forward, because if he's unhappy, you have the means to go out and get a superstar.
Kevin Durant isn't going anywhere.
Jesus, this guy.
At worst, they'll come to some 1-year agreement with Kyrie.
He's not going to sign a 1-year deal.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't think he's going to get a whole hell of a lot of interest around the league.
I don't think there's many teams that are willing to go into the Kyrie pot for multiple years. I really don't.
He's going to take a short term. He'll go back, he'll prove himself, he'll get his long-term deal. He and KD will play a few more years together in Brooklyn.
I mean,
this is all posturing.
That would have to be a last resort situation for Kyrie to accept a 1-year deal.
It's business decisions for the listen.
I understand why any team would not want to get longer than that.
The Brooklyn Nets have seen this scenario play out in front of their eyes for now 2 years, and it's always something. And so I could completely see them saying, "Nah, we're good. We'll just 1 year or nothing." That's just it.
I think one thing that it covered in the article, a possibility, is that if he were to sign with another team, he could sign a 3 or 4 year deal or whatever, but the only teams that could afford him are the Pistons and
Spurs,
teams like
right?
that aren't going to be contending with Kyrie. So one possibility that they were describing was Kyrie signing with this team with both sides under the knowledge that we're going to deal you as soon as we can deal you, and at least we'll get picks and players back in the equation. So that's something to watch out for. But it could just be posturing. It is smokescreen season.
Let's play this since we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you give up for KD?
Well,
Old
I mean,
Town.
I'd have
Old Town.
Old Town. I mean, I really feel like I'd have to check the math to see what works. But I mean, I feel like Cam Johnson would have to be thrown in just so the Nets are getting something that they want.
Oh, I think Mikal Bridges would have to be thrown in.
I think Mikal could be on the line. DA would certainly be in the conversation. Pretty much anyone except for Book and CP3, I feel like would be fair game. I think if you're the Suns, you try to hold on to Mikal, but you have to throw in a shit ton of picks to entice them to do that.
The Brooklyn Nets wanted CP3, okay, for KD.
Yeah. It ain't happening.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but
they're not going to.
I think the only one that's technically off the books is probably Devin Booker. But
I mean, those are your most valuable assets. Mikal, Cam, guys like that. That's what teams are going to want for a superstar.
They want you.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
You have to give up something to get something. You're not going to get Kevin Durant for
Payne, Landry Shamet, JaVale McGee.
Yeah.
You're not going to get all of that.
Look, it works in the trade machine, though.
The numbers
You
work.
also
You
aren't
have
getting
to-
him for just Cam
You
Johnson.
have to make the numbers work.
Right.
Those guys
Yeah.
would have to be included.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be
you
the
have to-
center.
No,
for
absolutely
something.
not. No, definitely not.
It's
You're going to have to give up a Cam and either probably a DA or a Mikal. I don't think you have to give up all three if you throw in enough picks, but Yeah, it would have to be at least 2 of those 3, probably.
My lawyer, so says Jay, in the chat says Espo and Lindsey's beanie for KD. Who says no?
Me. Hard pass. You can't have this.
Yeah, you don't want to lose me. I know.
You can try it from my cold dead hands. No way.
Yeah, Espo's fine.
Espo can move
my
it
beanie.
to Brooklyn,
the beanie.
but the beanie stays.
I told you I wasn't lying about a vacation.
I wouldn't trade.
I love you,
Espo.
buddy.
What's the biggest hipster spot that we can trade to Brooklyn for KD in town?
The biggest hipster spot?
Yeah, in
The
Arizona.
beanie would be at home in Brooklyn.
It would.
But is Lindsey a hipster?
No.
No.
I'm saying the
I
biggest
just have
hipster
hipster
spot in
vibes.
Arizona.
Oh.
Brooklyn's very
That's
hipster.
the most hipster thing that's ever been said. I'm not a hipster. I just have hipster vibes.
Well, because the beanie has become equated, I feel like, with
hipsters,
hipsters.
Yeah, Lindsay's more grunge.
Or
thank you
potheads.
very much.
Lindsay can't figure out what she is the problem. So it's just a rotating cycle. Let me
Lindsay's
try this.
Lindsay's comfy. That's what
That's
Lindsay
exactly
is.
what it is.
I just don't see how you get to where KD
But you
wants up here.
didn't see CP3.
Yeah, you can, I
Try
said
it.
I didn't think $44 million for him made sense at the time, and I was wrong, and I admit that. But this is a guy in his prime that is one of the best players in the world, and I just don't see why Brooklyn, even if he's like, oh, I'm unhappy you're not signing Kyrie, why they would blow it up rather than try to make things better.
Because that's what
KD.
these guys have done.
I don't know.
Harden's done that. Kyrie's done that. KD's done that. Like,
Right.
they go to places and they blow shit up, and then they move on to the next spot.
If he forces his way out, there's not a lot they can do about it. But to your point, he is under contract for 4 more years and $198 million. So they have control of him. But like, we've seen how often superstar players have effectively been able to force their way out, no matter their contract situation. So I wouldn't rule it out entirely. I agree with you. I think it's still a long shot at this stage. But the rumblings are there. The groundwork is there. If they don't figure things out with Kyrie, we could see things devolve pretty quickly there.
We will have our own goddamn Kevin Durant lounge in our bar. I don't care if it ever gets used. It's a safe space for you, KD. You
just
come,
a velvet rope
you can
around
get your,
one chair.
you can get on all
Like
your burner
one
accounts, and nobody will ever know. Like, you just do what you got to do, KD. This is a safe space.
Okay, you know what? Like, not to go too far off the rails here, but when you bring up burner accounts, I actually do really like KD on Twitter.
I do too.
I know
wish
a
he
lot of
wouldn't use
people
burner
have
accounts.
issues with it, and because he's
It
a
depends on
little
the day.
aggressive at times.
Mhm.
Yes, but I'm all for it. Like, if you're a superstar, you're one of the people in this league who make it run and tick. By all means, tell us your feelings.
I think that's
Clap back at fans for being
Go ahead.
jerks. Like,
Well,
do it.
I'm
We
cool
want-
with that part.
We want athletes to be real, to be
Mhm.
to open up, to show that, and when they do it, they get
Yep.
crap for it.
Mhm.
I'm all for it. Don't even use burner accounts. Go full like he has. Go full ham yourself. I want to see that from athletes.
Yeah.
I want honesty.
I agree too. I wholeheartedly agree. Like, I think obviously athletes are more than just playing, basketball players or football players or whatever. Like, I want to know who these guys are, and I think that's some of the things that like pro sports tries to do is they try to keep the human element away from you outside of what you see on the court.
Right.
And I think that's just as such a disservice to not only the player but also the team. Like, people want to buy into other people. You want to know who these guys are and that you would fuck with them in real life.
Mhm.
Like, that's the appeal. So yeah, I love when KD goes on rants.
I've always said that is what I think is the biggest thing that's kind of holding hockey back is they don't invest in like storytelling around their players enough.
Baseball.
Baseball
Yeah.
too.
Why you
I
think
honestly
baseball is on
think
a
you can get more fans
Yep.
like really involved and engaged in your sport if you invested in your players' stories more.
And how much do we love rivalries in sports, right? If guys could actually speak their mind and openly, and stuff came out where they're bantering about other teams and other guys, it just makes things more intriguing. I'm all for it. Oh, by the way, I love Alex's comment in the chat. 86, the Johnny Venerable chug room at the bar. Make room for the Kevin Durant throne. So.
Bless Johnny's heart. Poor guy.
That was, yeah.
Oh. All right. Any final thoughts on the Brooklyn drama?
Like I said, don't get too excited just yet, but keep an eye on it. Just
Yeah.
keep
I
it
already
on the
bought my
radar.
jersey. It's too late.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. And if
Next
you
day
love
delivery.
drama, the DraftKings Sportsbook app makes the drama
Nice.
of NBA playoffs so much more fun
Who is
and entertaining
this?
and
what have
exciting.
they done with Lindsey?
The DraftKings Sportsbook app is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And this week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets if they do. Also, if you are looking to turn a smaller bet into a bigger payday during the NBA playoffs, you can do so with same-game parlays. And right now, all customers can place a same-game parlay with 3 or more legs and get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg does not hit. So take advantage of all the offers that the DraftKings Sportsbook app is providing right now. Download the app, use the promo code PHNX when you sign up. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's promo code PHNX. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Love DraftKings Sportsbook and cookie.
That would I wouldn't be able to talk after that. That would kill my voice. But I do have to read the disclaimer. 21 and older only, Arizona only, gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only, minimum $5
Not during the
minimum
disclaimer,
deposit.
you jerk.
Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details.
Have a gambling addiction? No, that's not it.
Me have cookie addiction. Me want cookie.
If you missed the Cookie Monster voice of Espo yesterday, was it yesterday?
No, it was 2 days ago.
Oh, it was 2 days ago. You gotta go listen to that. We also had a sexy Cookie Monster, which was a little bit questionable.
Cookie Monster here for all of you.
Just
This
don't
must be
listen to
great
it before
on
you
audio
go to bed
version.
because it'll be stuck in your head all night and you'll not be able to sleep.
Apparently, Cookie Monster is from Italy because he has a thick Italian accent as well.
All
It's
right.
me, I'm Mario. I can do that in Italian, so no.
We've been
no
kind of
letters.
going down the roster, talking about performances of different players on this team. Today, we are going to tackle the bench. We did talk about Cam Johnson yesterday, so if you missed that, listen to that for Cam Johnson conversations. But outside of that, we'll kind of go down a few players off the bench. I think we should start with the backcourt, if you guys are cool with that, and more specifically, Cam Payne. So let me just
one's gonna
give
make me
you
sad.
some stats real quick. I know this is boring for some of you, but just to kind of set the scene, okay?
That's always great at a show. Hey, I know this is going to be boring
Yeah,
as
see
shit.
this
Well,
up,
some
baby.
people
Sit there
like
and
it,
listen.
some people don't.
Lindsey-
It just is what it is.
Lindsay just saying this.
I'll go fast.
I have to read this and it's boring.
No, it's not that. It just provides a little bit of context, okay? So during the regular season this year, he averaged 22 minutes, 10.8 points, and he shot 40.9% from the field, 33.6 from deep. He had 4.9 assists, 1.8 turnovers, and 3 rebounds, okay? In the playoffs, he averaged 13.2 minutes, 4.2 points. He shot 29.7% from the field, 16.7 from deep, and he had 2.1 assists, 1 turnover, and 1.5 rebounds. So there's a pretty significant drop, obviously, from the regular season to the playoffs. Do we need to have a therapy session around this one?
Look, this is campaign in part. We got a guy that way outplayed who he is and what history tells us is campaign. He was on the ropes and almost out of the league for a reason. Do I think he's slightly better than he was in the playoffs? Yes. Apparently Siri wants to really weigh in. But look, he's slightly better than he was in the playoffs, but I think his ideal position long-term on this team is the Aaron Holiday, Alfred Payton position, where he's that third point guard. He's a guy that can come in if you desperately need a change of pace, but you don't have to rely on him. You can ride him if he's hot. You don't have to if he's not, and that's where the Suns got in trouble. They didn't have another option when he just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, that really cost them because of the wear and tear that we saw on Chris Paul.
Right.
The heavy burden that he had to carry in the first round with Booker out and with Campaign, turning into Green Day's best album, which is Dookie. Like, it was bad.
Scratch.
Yeah.
You pull a hammy on that one, J-Man?
I thought that was a good one. I'm not going to lie to you. But
What'd you call him?
I called him J-Man. I don't know why. That's what I call my dog. I don't know why.
J-Man. I was like, who the fuck is J-Man?
Jer Bear? I don't know.
oh, no.
Girth?
Jer Bear is better.
Not
Yeah.
Jer Bear.
I literally called him what I call my dog. I'm having some kind of mental break on this show.
Yeah.
I just liked how I was looking at both of you and your eyes both rolled back in your head at the exact same time.
I'm used to that reaction.
But no, look, Campaign couldn't do anything in the playoffs. And it's because Monty pointed this out multiple times throughout the year when he was talking about campaign struggles, is that for the first time in his career, he's actually on the scouting report. And last year he took a lot of people by surprise, and that's an adjustment. And it's one that he has struggled with because they know he's trying to get downhill. They know he's going to throw up those crafty layups that, nearly touch the rafters. And he wasn't good at finishing those layups, and he couldn't shoot from three either. He shot 5 for 30 from three in the playoffs. 28 of those 33-point attempts were open or wide open, according to NBA.com. He made 4 of those. Like, that's awful. 4 for 28 on open or wide open threes is really bad. So if you can't shoot and you're not getting to the rim, and when you are getting to the rim, you're missing a ton of layups. Let's actually pull up that clip, Shane, because this is just from the first 3 games, and this is just a collection of easy layups or really difficult ones that are not even close to the rim that we're watching here. He tries to get it over Larry Nance, not even close. This one he blows by Graham, has an easy layup, misses it anyway. And it was just this over and over. If you're not scoring easy layups like this that just aren't falling, and if you're not hitting 3-point shots, and if you're constantly attacking and throwing wild turnovers, it's not going to work out well for you. So
and only getting 2.1 assists per game. Then what are you doing?
Right. And that was why we, in the playoffs, you see guys' minutes dip, but his dipped by 9 minutes per game. And it's because Monty couldn't trust him out there for longer than a handful of minutes.
I get what you're saying about the scouting report, but at the same time, you kind of just, you kind of contradicted yourself, I guess, a little bit, but not out of your own doing, not purposeful. We're talking about wide open shots. We're talking about makeable layups. Scouting report be damned. You got to come through. You got to play better. Right. And and I understand that, listen, coaches know who's on the team and what they're going to do and what their tendencies are. When we're talking about scouting reports, that can only take you so far, but good players always find a way around it. And Payne, we thought, based off of last year's performance, was going to be able to be that, that solid backup for CP3. And he was just so wildly inaccurate all season long. I think there was only a stretch of maybe 2 or 3 games where it looked like he was starting to put it together. And it's a common theme with this team. Every single time it looked like somebody was getting into a groove, injury. And he missed large stretches of the season as well. So I want to bag on Payne a lot because I feel I think there's a common theme between Payne, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges. And the common theme is the energy that they bring to the court when things are going at a very high level. Cam Johnson is a fan favorite. So is Mikal. Payne was a similar fan favorite last year. And the energy that he brought when he was on a roll, it took this team to another level. But you missed all 3 of them basically this entire postseason. And that's what I feel was the biggest miss so far for the Suns.
There's the old saying, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them, right? I mean, if you look at Payne's career numbers, this season is right where he was career-wise. The bubble and last year were the aberrations, the outliers in it. You look at it, and before joining the Suns, the best he ever shot from 3 was 38%, but he had been in the 30, 31, 32% range a bunch in his career. Had never shot more than 43% from the field overall, field goal percentage-wise, before coming to Phoenix. I don't think he became an ultimate player coming here to Phoenix. I think he reverted back to the mean.
I understand it's easy to look at stats and say that, but 102 games. We're talking about 102 games from the bubble to the end of last season where you felt like he made significant progress in his game. And then you could also attribute that to playing for Monty and the system and everything kind of just gelling together, right? And you're like, okay, maybe this guy's in the right role now. And he feels confident, he feels comfortable in this system, and he can thrive. And I think the Suns believe that. And then he goes back to what you're saying. But I don't feel like it's necessarily a case of you gotta just believe that he's just a shitty player. I think he could have improved, and I think even these clips, as much as we want to bag on campaign, like these are makeable plays.
Mhm.
These are makeable plays. Like,
Right.
But he didn't.
and he
make
didn't
them.
come through. I understand that, but it's not for lack of ability or talent, is what I'm gonna
Look,
say.
anybody that gets picked 15th in the draft has talent. Guys that get picked second in the draft that have immense talent flame out and don't perform well. Just because you have talent doesn't mean that you're capable of accessing it or using it in the right moment all the time. For me, you can't go into next season with campaign as your primary backup to Chris Paul. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for the same kind of shit we saw this year with it, and you're not going to be any better.
I just saw
for
10
it.
years worth of draft picks of players that had no talent get drafted by the Suns in the top 15.
It's tough with campaign because I see what both of you are saying, because that year last season where he shot 48% from the floor and 44% from three, that part felt a little unsustainable, but it did feel like something that he could kind of at least waver in that vicinity. And like, let's be real, heading into this season, a lot of people thought he might be the potential successor to Chris Paul, not just his backup, but like the guy that you could run at the point if he was able to build on what he did last season.
Those
We
were
saw this
people
year-
smoking their own stash.
Yeah, but I was much more hesitant on that than a lot of people, but like we saw this season, that's clearly not the case. And now it's to the point where in a playoff setting, can you still rely on him? And I know that's kind of unfair based on what he did in the conference finals last year when Chris Paul was out. Like, everyone remembers the Valley-Oop, but they don't remember his 29-point performance in that game that kept them in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was huge during that playoff run, kind of disappeared in the finals, disappeared entirely for both series this year. I think it is something you have to look at because, you know, we've talked a lot about how nobody on this team is off limits. He makes $6 million next season, and then he has a $6.5 million non-guaranteed salary for the following season. I think he's a guy that if you're looking to make a trade and upgrade your, you know, your core 7 or 8 man rotation, he's a guy that you could throw in there as kind of a salary matcher for sure.
Well, my other question is his play sustainable the way he does it too, because he goes so hard. It is very, you know, speedy, violent at times in terms of the way he throws his body around. You wear down after a while playing like that too. So,
Well, I get that. But I mean, listen, he's played that way his whole life. Like, he's accustomed to that style himself. Like, so he's used to it. I will also say Easy's in the chat talking about Mikal Bridges and how come we're not criticizing him. Well, we literally
did.
we spent a whole episode on Monday doing that. I know Lindsey just pointed that out as well. So just give you a heads up. We did bag on Mikal Bridges and we had our thoughts. So
And he makes
you can go
90 million, not 100 million. That's not how much he makes.
semantics. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a difference.
I wish I could think
$10 million
$10
to us is
million.
a huge deal for sure.
All right. I feel like, I mean, let's just Landry Shamet up next. How are we feeling about Landry Shamet?
I'm proud of Landry and how he played in the Mavericks series because it was he was one of the few guys that actually looked like he was contributing whatsoever. I feel like his regular season was a tragedy, and I thought it was just a sham, a mockery,
A Travis
a Travis mockery.
It started off so well.
Yeah, and so you got to get more from him moving forward. Otherwise, he too might be an expendable piece that you're going to have to try and get rid of. And if you can get rid of that contract, which I think right now is not a great contract for the Suns. I know $10 million is easy to swallow every year. It's 4 years, $40 million, right? But I just you got to get more out of that.
Here's the thing with the Landry Shamet contract. That is a very easily movable contract. And I know you don't agree because of the length of it, but it's 4 years, $43 million. The third year is non-guaranteed and the fourth year is a team option. So it is not as bad as the base numbers would suggest. He is a career 39% shooter, and with as bad as he's shot leading up to the All-Star break when he was dealing with that ankle thing, he wound up getting to just under 37% for the season, which is not bad. The playoffs, I feel like he was one of the few bench contributors who actually tried to give them something. He only shot 35% from three, which is not great, but he defended his ass off. And I feel like that kind of flew under the radar a lot of the time. He was really good defensively, which is not something he's been known for in his career. But you're right. He is also a very movable piece if they are looking to trade for a star or package salaries together. They just need to wait until July 1st for what's called the poison pill clause in his contract to expire, because right now the money would be different than what his overall salary is. Once it gets to July 1st, it would just be what his salary is, as far as incoming and outgoing money.
I think a lot of these trades we're going to see, they may be agreed to in principle, but they're going to have to wait
Right.
for the new year league anyways. But, NBA general managers are like that friend we all have that look at the person with flaws and go, oh, I can fix them. And Landry Shamet seems like the kind of guy that every general manager goes, well, look at the shooting percentage in our system. I can fix him. So I think he's immensely tradable. But that said, I actually like what he brings to this team as a second unit guy. Now, he got thrown into the starting lineup a lot, had to get used more because of injuries and whatnot this year. But if his primary role is 3-and-D off the bench, I'm okay with that. I think he can pull it off. And even though it was an up and down season, there were points where you watched him and you went, now I understand what James Jones saw when he gave him this contract. The key is, like everything else we talk about, internal growth. He has to live up to that potential now and do it more consistently.
I wouldn't be mad if Landry was on this team next year.
No.
Within reason of like what his role is, of
Yeah.
course. I wouldn't be mad at all if he was still on this team. The thing that I think is, and this is just pure speculation, right? I think a lot of the things that are holding Landry back from being as good as he can be is his mind.
Mhm.
I think it's mostly a mental thing, feeling uncertain about maybe his career, maybe his role on the team, just where people think he, like opinions, like not from us or outsiders, but like the opinion of his coaches, his teammates on him. I think that plays a lot into his performance. And I think within this group of the Suns, the coaching staff and the players around him, I think one more year, maybe he finds a little bit of comfort and a little bit of, I don't know, just being more solid in that like feeling and in that spot. So I would be okay if we gave one more year to Landry.
And it's easy to forget that, like, we think of him as more of a kind of veteran guy because he's been on so many different teams in his career. He's only 25 years old. He just turned 25 in March. Like, he's not a finished product. And if we talk about how the Suns need to tweak their system to take more threes, that's another guy that you would like to have coming off your bench because he is a guy that can get up a lot of shots in a hurry. His decision-making needs to be a little bit better, shot selection, but I think that was a process of kind of feeling out this more mid-range heavy offense versus what he's used to, because to this point in his career, he's primarily just been a guy that flies off screens, runs all over the court, and gets up shots. I think that's kind of what the Suns need to transition more to with him, especially if they want to get those three-point attempts up.
And he's got sneaky athleticism. What I think you'll see in year two is more of that fake and drive like Cam does and get some of those dunks as well. Like, I liked the aggressiveness at times that we saw. It didn't seem like he was afraid to go at the rim regardless of who was there. And I like that little bit of, I mean, it's a little crazy for a guard when he does that. I like that with a player, that not afraid to go in there and test the athleticism. So.
All right, so this guy wasn't on our list, but I do think we're getting a few comments about him, so we'll just spend a handful of minutes, not too much. Aaron Holiday. We didn't really get to see a lot of him, but are you guys hoping to see more of him in the future, or where do you stand on Aaron?
I'd love to see him here if you're going to play him, but if you're not, then move on. Let him get an opportunity that's better suited for him. I mean, it was pretty clear they didn't feel comfortable with him because rather than turning to him when Payne proved unplayable in that second series, they decided Point Book was the better option, and that was part of the downfall that we saw in the Mavericks series. So if you're not going to buy into him there where you needed him and that's what you traded for him for, I don't know why that changes.
If he's your Elfrid Payton next year, that's fine by me, but like, he is a restricted free agent. His qualifying offer would be $5.8 million. So it kind of just depends on what the market is like for him. If another team comes in with an offer, you're probably not matching that for your third guard. Like, I would have liked to see more of him. And I think we can all agree that Monty did not, for whatever reason, he got away from him after those first 2 weeks or whatever it was, where Holiday looked pretty good. And then he got away from him. He went with Elfrid Payton for a couple weeks. And then by the time the playoffs came around, he wasn't playing hardly at all. It would have been nice to see a few more minutes. He wasn't going to save that series either way. But I just don't think they're as invested in him as we were.
Which is, to me, it's a little problematic. You basically had the equivalent of 0 options coming off the bench. But you chose to try and work that anyway with Elfrid Payton and Cam Payne, and neither one of them were producing at a high enough level to warrant dismissing Aaron Holiday completely. And that's what they chose to do. You know, Monty's the one that fucking said before the season started, you can never have enough Elfrid Paytons. Yes, you fucking can.
They had
like,
too many. One is too many.
One was too many.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like, and they wouldn't even play Aaron. And the thing that's problematic is that when we did get a chance to see Aaron Holiday, usually in crunch or in scrub time, last 2 minutes of the game or whatever, he played good. You know, and spots in the season he played well. And I kept hearing about, well, maybe he just doesn't know the offense to the level that you need it. I get that, but at the same time, your other option was going point book, and we saw how that ended up hurting the team at the end of the season. Like Booker getting double teamed, nobody else was stepping up. Jesus, just give Holiday a chance. You never know. Sometimes in sports, sometimes flukes happen because you're forced into a situation you can't avoid. And maybe if they play Aaron Holiday in one of these games, he gives them the juice that they need to make a run in like game 3 or game 4 in Dallas. Certainly not game 7. That shit was not going to be, that didn't matter. But they didn't. They were so hard-headed about it that I just don't understand. Like, he must not know where the bodies are buried like other players that get multiple chances.
I would like to know the why behind that a little bit
and
more.
I thought
I don't know that
Gerald
we'll
had
ever
asked.
know.
Gerald had asked earlier in the season, like, why Aaron Holiday. It was the last couple of games of the season when he finally got back on the court in exchange for Elfrid Payton. And Monty had said basically that he had made the mistake. He should have played him a lot more because he was giving him a spark. And then he stopped again. Well, like, what the fuck?
Well, and he didn't know the offense argument. To be frank, in those last 2 games against Dallas, they weren't running the offense anyway.
True.
Monty's biggest fault, aside from the in-game adjustment stuff that we've talked about, is also what makes him such a likable coach and what makes it so easy to buy into his stuff is his trust and loyalty and faith in his guys. Like, he was I think he got caught trying to play the long game because I don't think anyone expected that second round series to go to 7. After the first 2 games, we were like, this is going to be 4 or 5 games tops. And I think they got surprised at how Dallas responded on the road. And I think Monty got caught like, this is a long finals run. If I turn my back on Cam Payne now, if I go with Aaron Holiday instead, like, Cam Payne's confidence might be shattered the rest of the way. I might have to stick with Holiday the rest of the way. Like, can we get to the ultimate goal? I think he got caught playing the long game. And the reality that we came to see is Dallas was for real. And they were going to win that series, and they did. And you have got to be able to have those conversations with guys, which we know Monty's capable of doing, and be like, look, you're not it right now. We need to go a different direction. He did that with JaVale going to Bismarck for a little bit, and it worked. And that was something that needed to happen with Cam Payne. It was something that we needed to see, at least see Holiday. But I do think there is something there that we just don't understand as far as him not.
But he went away from Cam Payne in game 5, 6, and 7. Basically, Cam Payne was an afterthought. He never even played again, basically. He played like a couple minutes here and there, but it wasn't as much as he was playing. So
that was like the last. At that point, it was too late. Like,
I mean,
and he went with Landry.
you won game 5.
Mhm.
So this is what I'm going to say is you won game 5, convincing fashion. Things midway through the second quarter of game 6, there's got to be an alarm that goes off in your head like, shit ain't right again. We've been in this situation twice before in games 3 and 4. We have to make an adjustment. My faith in these players be damned. Like, somebody's got to give us some results. As much as I appreciate what everybody brings to the table, somebody's got to go out there and produce.
Right.
And nobody was. That's my thing, is like, nobody was. Like, and so just throw it out there for a couple minutes. You know what I mean? Just a couple minutes. Put some relish on your hot dog.
I get that, but I also get what you're saying, Gerald, that he was playing the long game. And I think that was the problem with the whole team in that series. They just thought they were going to win.
Yes.
That it was just going to happen at some point. So, why mess with too much? We're just going to beat these guys eventually. And they just kept being surprised every time Dallas found a way to beat them. So I think that was a larger fault than just Monty looking long term. I think everybody was doing that.
It was the pride before the fall. And I saw someone ask, is Campaign's confidence that fragile that like if he got benched, he wouldn't be able to come back from it? Kind of. Like you saw how bad he was playing. Like if you are playing that bad and your confidence is already shaken at the highest level at the worst time of year, and then you get benched for it, like that's hard to come back from when, playoff games are every other day, especially.
Also, we are going to be talking about money. I know there's some people asking, well, are we going to talk about money? And we will be talking about money tomorrow.
You're getting all the money you can handle. The full money tomorrow.
The full Monty tomorrow.
Oh, boy. All right, let's take a quick break. I want to remind you guys about our desire for you all to stay safe and healthy this summer. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location near you. Let's move right along to the front court. We want to start with JaVale McGee.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I've got a few stats for JaVale as well, just because I feel like I pulled the stats for Cameron JaVale because I feel like those were kind of like the top 2 guys within this discussion. So during the regular season, he averaged 15.8 minutes, 9.2 points, and 6.7 rebounds. In the playoffs, he dropped down to 11.1 minutes, averaged 6.8 points, and 4 rebounds. How do we feel about JaVale McGee and the future with this team?
I personally liked what JaVale brought to the team, specifically during the regular season, and the attitude that he brought. I don't put what happened in the playoffs as much on JaVale as I do on roster construction, because JaVale was never a guy that was going to be able to play in drop coverage and do those things. You knew that wasn't really JaVale's strong suit. So I think he was brought in because they were looking at, well, if we face the Bucks again, or if we face that kind of team, we need to have that guy, without looking at there's all these other teams and the way that they play. If you're in a 7-game matchup, doesn't line up with JaVale, and that's not on him.
No, I mean there was 2 teams that the Suns would have had to face to get to the finals, and both those teams were horrible matchups for JaVale McGee. The Dallas Mavericks, and then if they would have won that series, the Golden State Warriors. JaVale would have been damn near unplayable against the Golden State Warriors, just because they have too many guys that can spread the floor out and shoot from the perimeter. So I like JaVale, what he brings to the team because of the intangibles, the extracurriculars, keeping it loose, doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's intense on the court, which I think I love that balance. It fits right into the mold of what these guys had been about. But you do need to have a viable number 1 option there. And to me, I feel like what probably hurt JaVale the most was the fact that he did play in some games. I thought he played more than he should have, because at the end of the day, I had said at the beginning of the season, you were only winning a championship if DA was your 3rd bell cow. And there was times where they just decided to play JaVale more than or almost as much as DA, because they just liked what he was bringing to the table. And I thought at a certain point that was a little bit to the detriment of DA, but I'm always going to say that because I'm a DA guy.
Yeah, it's tough because he was super efficient in the playoffs. Like he shot 70% overall, and he was even better in that Pelicans series against a more traditional back line. But as soon as we got to the Dallas series, it was pretty evident like he couldn't defend against those 5-out lineups, which, to be fair, not a lot of teams can. Like that gave DA problems. It gave Rudy Gobert, who's like a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, problems. And we've seen that with Gobert before, but like JaVale's not going to be that guy on the perimeter. Shane, if we could cue up the clip, this is one play, just one of many, where JaVale's just in drop coverage because that's what you have to do with JaVale McGee. He can't be flying around on the perimeter. He's going to get burned off the dribble. And that was Davis Bertans just coming off a screen. Jay Crowder gets nailed, and McGee is in the paint where he has to be. But, like, that's a wide open three for Bertans after he had already started that game 3 for 3. I think that was game 4. And that put the Suns down by like 16, and they were just never really in it the rest of that game. That's what teams will do to JaVale McGee in the playoffs. So if you are going to bring him back, which he is an unrestricted free agent this summer, the Suns can use their non-bird rights to re-sign him to a deal starting at $6 million. Like, you've got to make sure that you also have that mobile big like a Bismack Biyombo coming back so that you can be flexible and change things up when you have to, which again is something that Monty needs to improve at.
Play a little thought experiment with me. Say you bring JaVale back, Dario's healthy. Do you feel like that's the better rotation? Like, does it work better there? Because now you can play Dario in those situations where JaVale can't play. You can play JaVale. Like, to me, it feels like part of that they were looking at, if Dario can come back by the playoffs, we have a perfect kind of rotation for this, and didn't really address it because they thought maybe that was a possibility.
I think so. I think if you have JaVale McGee and Dario Saric back next year, and if you don't, package Saric in a trade for someone else, I think that's a center rotation that gives you a little bit of variety. Like this year, it was mostly rim rolling bigs. Saric brings a little bit of that perimeter passing, shooting, dribbling, a little bit of everything. Like, he's called him and Frank Kaminsky connectors in the way that they move the ball when they catch it at the top of the key. That's something. R.I.P. Frank and Kaminsky Cove. Those are things that the Suns offense needs, and the defense, more importantly, you need that switchability. And JaVale McGee is just a guy that in drop coverage, they're going to go at him every time.
All right, Bismack Biyombo. How are we feeling about Bismack?
I love Biz. He's a guy that you can throw out there for a handful of minutes. He'll make an impact, but he's clearly flawed, and he's best as a third-string big at this point, on a contender at least.
And I think he accepts that, too, which I like about him.
Right.
He's not a guy that's going to make waves because he's not getting minutes. He's a guy that'll come in and will hustle his ass off when he gets to play, and you paid him next to nothing. And he donated all that money to build a hospital. I can't bag on the dude. There was nothing that he did that you could look at and you go, well, he crapped the bed. No, he came in and did what they asked and more at times. I don't have a problem with Bismack and what he did this year.
Exactly what I was supposed to say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really much to add. But,
Dagoon in the chat said we got what we expected with Biz, and that's okay.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
I mean, you can't be mad at that at all.
Love that guy. I don't think I've ever been in a media scrum as impactful as the one that he gave when he told us about why he was building the hospital and his background in that regard. Like, just a stand-up dude. If you can get him back on a free agent minimum deal, that'd be great. But, he gave them everything that he could, and the expectations weren't high, and I think he passed them.
And he's down to fight a guy in the tunnel, and I'm always okay with that.
That was funny. His little press conference the next day.
Oh, my God.
Was throwing little jokes around. He's so precious. All right, we're going to wrap things up with Torrey Craig, because I feel like this one has a lot of people feeling some type of way, right? Because we saw Torrey last year. We got him back this year. Not what I think a lot of people expected from him as far as the way he was able to perform once he rejoined this team.
Well, I mean, you can see people are asking, do you think Sticks will return? First of all, no.
No.
Second of all, listen, the trade happened because they were looking for some juice. They couldn't pull the trigger on something that was more lucrative for whatever reason. So they decided to go back with what they knew and then add Aaron Holiday as well. And that just didn't pan out. And you didn't get the same magic from Torrey. But it's hard for me to bag on Torrey when the rest of the team also did not do what they did last year. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Like, Torrey didn't play at a high enough level, but neither did Mikal, neither did Cam, neither did CP3, neither did DA. Like, it's just so easy to just point out one guy. And in this instance, as a role player who is reliant on everybody else to kind of get him into positions where he can create or score, it wasn't a good mix for him this season. And so I like Torrey. I think he's a good dude. I think he's been on our show. Great interview. But to be honest with you, if they moved on from him or they traded him, like, it's not it's not going to move the earth.
Yeah.
The Sticks kids are back. Like, come on. Let's not act like they traded this all-world player to get Torrey Craig.
No,
Like,
but
it's
I
not-
do understand like the idea behind it, right? Like
If you're upset about that transaction, be upset that Jalen Smith was the 10th pick. Don't be
Yeah,
upset that he was traded for
exactly.
Torrey
Thank you.
Craig. That makes
Especially
no
when you
sense.
see all the guys that they ended up passing on that a lot of us were clamoring for. Tyrese Halliburton, Desmond Bane, who are killing it right now.
Yep.
There you go.
And they had already made their bed when it came to when it came to Sticks. They had decided they weren't picking up
That
his
option.
option.
Yep.
So it was done. They got something for him before he walked for absolutely nothing. That's what it is. So look, I wish Torrey had played better because he was such a fun part of the previous year, but nobody did. Like I don't know how to gauge it. And it's not like he's making that much money. What is it, $5 million?
$5 million.
Like, so that's the kind of guy you go, okay, if he's part of a trade because it helps make finances work, great. If he's here and he's part of the back end of your bench, it's the kind of guy you need on a roster at a low salary. You know, I would have loved to see him play better, but I don't have a problem with Torrey Craig and what he did. He wasn't ever going to be the savior of this team.
Right. It was unfortunate that it seemed like his approach became more perimeter oriented this time around than last time.
Yep.
He was a really smart cutter last season, and especially in the playoffs. Like, he was the guy that, okay, you're worried about Devin Booker, you're worried about Chris Paul, you're worried about D.A. Rolling. Oh, shoot, there's a Torrey Craig cut that, like, nobody was paying attention to. He was really good at that, and this year we didn't see as much of that. He was pulled, I think, midway through the Pelicans series. Like, we do want to talk about how Monty has his faith in his guys. Torrey Craig wasn't one of those guys this year because he was just getting torched by Brandon Ingram. So it's one of those things where you were hoping for more of an impact, like the first time he came here midseason, but you can't be too mad about this when literally everything else was falling to shit as well.
I will say this, like, there's a lot of people saying, well, he played so much better at Indy when he got some run. Of course he got some run.
About Jalen at this
Yeah,
point?
yeah. Jalen. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jalen got some run and he actually produced. Well, yeah, he got some run because Indy's a shitty team. That's why he got some run. Like, he wasn't going to get that kind of run with the Suns. Like,
do people not remember Elfrid Payton had some triple doubles with the Suns his first run here when they were dog trash and everybody's like, maybe he could be the point guard of the future. No, it's like somebody's got to score on a bad team. That's what happens.
I think it's Buck Dog said, can we be upset at both?
Yes,
to
you-
Gerald,
yes.
your kind of comments around like, don't be mad about the trade, be mad about the fact that he was the 10th pick in the first place. I think it's just a culmination of frustration around the mismanagement of that entire situation. Is how everyone's kind of feeling right now, and where you direct your anger can vary from day to day.
But it's one of those things that turned out to not be the right decision after the fact. But all the evidence they had through the first 2 years of his career was this is not a guy worth the money that we're gonna pay. Like, Sticks was not good the first 2 years. He showed virtually nothing. And when he did show something on this Suns team, it was because they literally had no other options at center, and he was in a contract year. So we should bear that in mind. I'm not trying to dump all over Sticks right now. Like, I think that in Indiana, he'll get a chance at more minutes, and that will give him an opportunity to grow. Phoenix, as a title contender his first 2 years in the league, was not the right environment for a player who needed developmental minutes. Like, he needs to be able to have his failures trial by fire on a bad team. That's what he needed. The Suns needed to take a more NBA ready player. And if they had taken Tyrese Halliburton or Tyrese Maxey or any of those guys, we wouldn't be as worried about the Chris Paul situation as we are right now.
also, can we also mention the fact that Sticks got drafted at a time when they cut the Naz Suns.
Mhm.
Like, so there was no development program. So he had nowhere else to go.
Mhm.
He couldn't go to the G League and improve.
No.
He had to stay here and work through it. The fortunate thing for Mikal, and you could even make the argument for Cam as well, that the first 2 years that they were in a Suns uniform, this team was trash. They were not very good, and they had to learn all together. And then they got guys like Ricky Rubio and CP3 to help a little bit with that, and it helps them develop. But Sticks was already he already had like 1 foot in the grave before he even started because they didn't have. Listen, I will say this: I don't feel like the Suns development program has really shown a lot. I think we thought we saw glimpses in the bubble when they kind of recovered and went 8-0, and then last year CP3 comes in and you think, oh, okay. I think this year it kind of showed you like, okay, like talent development, where are we at on this? I feel like they kind of stayed like the same team and everybody else adjusted to them this season. And when you look at a guy like Jalen Smith getting traded, he's kind of an example of that, because he did show flashes this year. You know, he had a couple really good games, but that's
the unfortunate part about having to decide on a player's next year option before the current season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's always struck me as weird. You have to decide if you want this guy for his fourth year before his third year starts. Like, that has never made sense to me, and that's what came back to bite them.
But Saul makes a great point. If you have, I mean, they were not committed to development of draft picks. When you cut the NAZ Suns, you know, they talked about how it was so important to start looking at how to win now. Like, that's not an environment for a guy that is raw. And people, I mean, I remember draft night. I think we were talking back in the old days, saw the Casey Jacobson. He was talking about this kid's raw. You're going to see a lot of, you know, great highlight dunks from his time in college, but he's a raw player. And if you draft a guy knowing that and you bring him in an environment that has no ability to facilitate that kind of growth, that's on management for making that pick. Like you said, not picking the better NBA ready player.
And no summer league for him to develop, and no no set position. They drafted him thinking he'd be a 4 that could play next to DeAndre Ayton, and he was pretty, we're not going to get into this again, but he was best as a 5. And that was a mismanaged pick.
I think we can all agree it was just a mess.
Yes.
Let's just call it that and move right on along, because we don't need another one of these.
I will use one little stat. He did shoot 39% from 3 with the Pacers, so maybe he was a 4.
He's not a 4.
He was a 4.
It's not a 4.
Okay. We don't have to argue about sticks because it doesn't matter anymore.
No,
it doesn't matter anymore.
Nothing matters
It's
right
okay.
now.
Wow.
Any final thoughts on the Suns bench and kind of just where you think the future might be for them?
Lots of changes.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of changes coming to the Suns bench.
Yep.
I would hope so, because I think we've seen the last 2 years the 3x5 index card approach doesn't work. Having a lot of depth doesn't work if you don't have 7 or 8 guys you can rely on come playoff time.
All right,
Posted note depth.
Fix
That's
it.
what they need.
We're gonna round out the show with a little bit of a ad read roulette.
Oh, let's spin that beautiful wheel.
Man, I hope I don't get picked, man, because I really have to go pee.
I'm not prepared
Let's
mentally
see who it is.
for any of this.
Da,
just
da, da,
yet.
da, Lindsey!
Hey, Lindsey!
You
Let's
know,
go!
here's
It's
the
a
thing.
Lindsey.
What is
I had
it?
a feeling this would happen because I feel like y'all rigged it so I didn't get it the first 2 days I came back to give me a little bit of grace for
There's-
actually having to get back into the swing
no
of things.
rigging of
Let's-
the roulette reel.
I feel
Let's
like there
find out
was.
what she's
I
going
don't
to have to
mind.
do the ad read
I
as.
appreciate it.
Spin it. Here we go. Round and round we go. Where it stops, nobody knows. You have to do a Victorian accent.
I
She
don't
just
know
did
how
one
to do
earlier,
this.
so that's okay.
Victorian accent. Can somebody just
Just
say
think-
it real quick?
think
Say
cover
something
of your
Victorian
book.
real quick.
Think-
But just say something real quick so I can get it in my head. Espo, I know you have a Victorian thing.
I don't.
Victorian thing.
Didn't you do one
You have a
earlier?
thing of
What
Victorians?
did I say? Where's Shane when you
Here we
need
go. See, this is why I said you should pick your own voices.
Me want to hear Lindsay do
Oh my
Victorian
God.
accent.
I know this is going to be so bad.
Oh, I
None
did a
of them would
southern
be
accent.
good.
I did a weather
Well,
guy
because
accent.
I need to hear it in
Weather
order to be
guy
able to do it.
accent.
How do Victorian people speak?
They
Just
sound very high and mighty.
highfalutin.
Say things like
Hoity
perchance.
toity.
Oh,
I don't think that's going to
Hoity-toity.
work. Well, let me just tell you guys about this wonderful, delightful company that I have once, that I've stumbled upon, who is a sponsor of this show that we all love very much. What you need to do is stop by your local dispensary and grab some amazing scratch-made THC gummies from our friends at OG.
Yeah.
They have different flavors like blackberries and cream and watermelon. Of all things, watermelon. Can you imagine?
do you
heavens.
believe?
It's perfect if you're in the mood for an uplifting sativa or a chill indica. Whichever you prefer, you can get at OG. So, if you are interested in trying the amazingly delicious variety of flavors that OG's brands has to
Yes.
offer, go to ogeezbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com to find an OG's near you.
Hip, hip,
Cheerio.
hooray!
Hey, that was
That's
great.
honestly-
Was that
that was
pretty
I think
good?
that was the
Spot on.
best
That
impression
was-
we've had so far.
That was spot on.
Everybody's
I loved
talking
it
about
the whole
Downtown
time.
Abbey right
The
now.
whole time I had to have my hand like the movement.
Downtown Abbey.
What did I
I've
say?
never seen
You said
it.
Downtown Abbey.
That's what it is,
It's
right?
Downton.
Oh, I've never seen
I
that.
thought it was
Buck Dog
downtown.
as an English guy. This upsets me.
Or
We're
does
sorry,
it?
I'm
Buck
sorry,
Dog.
Buck Dog. I'm sorry.
Righto.
Hip hip cheerio.
Well, I did the best that I could. So hopefully I lived up to Elle's expectations.
Nicely done. Nicely
Way
done.
to go.
great.
Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. We will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. So plan to come hang out with us again. I believe we are going to be talking all things Monty tomorrow, a couple extras in there as well. So a lot of you in the chat asked for it. So come back tomorrow so that you can receive what you'd like to have. Don't forget to check out gophnx.com. Consider becoming a member today. Gerald is still writing great articles over there. There's content for all the teams in the Valley. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsey Smith AZ. You can follow Saul at Saul
The bar is the
_Bookman.
floor, according to Chris.
What does that even mean?
Oh, that means that you didn't have to clear a high hurdle to be the best.
Yeah.
Impression.
Oh, I see.
Cookie Monster's
You
offended.
can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourguet. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Remember, we're all Sticks kids, just to varying degrees. Ahoy hoy.
Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saul pass the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B. Always on the job, my team move like the mob. Turn the